In today's chilling story, we will explore the eerie disappearance and tragic deaths of the Hinterkaifeck family. This case has baffled investigators for decades, leaving behind a haunting mystery that is still unsolved to this day. What happened on that isolated farm in the German countryside? Was it a gruesome murder driven by personal motives? Or could it have been something more sinister? Something supernatural? The story of the Hinterkaifeck murders is filled with strange occurrences, eerie signs, and an unresolved puzzle that continues to haunt the minds of those who dare to investigate it. The Hinterkaifeck farm sat alone in the forests of Upper Bavaria, away from any nearby town or village. The farm was isolated, surrounded by dense woods and rugged terrain that separated it from the rest of the world. The Gruber family, consisting of Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and her two children, 7-year-old Joseph and 2-year-old Cecilia, lived on this remote farm, far from the bustle of city life. The family had experienced a variety of strange occurrences in the weeks leading up to the murders. Andreas Gruber, the family patriarch, reported hearing noises in the attic. He claimed that he found tracks in the snow leading from the forest to the barn, but found no footprints leading away. Even stranger, he found a set of keys in the house that didn't belong to anyone in the family. Despite these eerie events, the Grubers, like many at the time, didn't place much significance on them. But as the days passed, things began to escalate. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, the family's maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived for her shift at the farm. She was new to the family, but like many of the Grubers, she was trying to make a living in the quiet, rural surroundings. However, as soon as Maria settled in, she began to report strange sounds. Footsteps, voices, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. The family was already on edge, but the tension heightened when Maria noticed that the barn doors had been opened and the animals had been disturbed. The farm's isolation and the strange happenings set the stage for a tragedy that no one could have predicted. In the early morning hours of April 1st, 1922, the unimaginable occurred. The Gruber family was brutally murdered. The bodies of Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and the two children were discovered in various parts of the house. The maid, Maria, was also found murdered. But what made the crime even more bizarre was the chilling aftermath. The killer had stayed at the farm for several days after the murders, feeding the animals and continuing the daily chores. Whoever committed the murders was not in a hurry to flee the scene. The bodies were found in a horrifying state. Andreas Gruber had been struck in the head with a pickaxe, while his wife Cecilia had been bludgeoned to death with a similar tool. Their daughter, Victoria, was killed in her bed, along with her 2 young children. Maria, the maid, was discovered in her own room, her life also taken in a brutal manner. But the strange thing was that the killer had not left any obvious clues behind. There were no signs of forced entry, and the house had been undisturbed. The murderer seemed to be familiar with the family and the layout of the house. But despite the crime's brutal nature, no one could determine a motive. As police launched their investigation, they found more strange elements surrounding the crime scene. The farm animals, usually left in the barn, had been fed, and some chores had been completed in the days following the murders. The killer had lived among the bodies, undisturbed for days. He used the family's supplies and had even moved around the house freely without drawing suspicion. No one was sure how the killer had managed to stay in the house for so long without being noticed, especially considering the farm's isolation. Theories about the identity of the murderer quickly spread. Many of the initial investigations focused on the neighbors. Could one of them have been responsible? A local man who was known to have been in the area around the time of the murders was briefly questioned, but there was no evidence to tie him to the crime. Several other suspects were brought forward, including the family's estranged son-in-law, who had reportedly had a dispute with the family, but again, no concrete proof emerged. As time went on, the case took a strange turn. The odd circumstances surrounding the murders, the unexplained noises, the reports of strange footprints, and the fact that the killer had lingered at the scene, led many to consider the possibility of a supernatural explanation. Some speculated that the family's isolated location had attracted malevolent forces. Others suggested that the killer had been mentally unstable, so detached from reality that they had stayed at the farm for days without any fear of being caught. As the investigation stalled and the murders remained unsolved, the farm and its history became the subject of local folklore. Many who visited the farm claimed to hear strange noises and see unexplained shadows. Stories began to circulate that the spirits of the murdered Gruber family haunted the site, forever trapped by the violent and unexplained nature of their deaths. Some believed the family's ghostly presence was a warning to those who dared to investigate too closely. Was the killer a living person, a family member, or a deranged outsider? Or was something more sinister at play? For decades, the Hinterkaifeck murders have remained unsolved. Theories range from the possibility of a family dispute gone tragically wrong to speculation that a stranger was responsible for the massacre. Some believe the family was cursed or that the property itself was haunted, bringing an early end to the Grubers' lives. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened on the night of April 1st, 1922. The Hinterkaifeck case remains one of the most mysterious and chilling unsolved murders in history. Was it the work of a calculated killer, or was the farm somehow connected to the strange and eerie events that led to its tragic fate? Over the years, the case has inspired numerous investigations, documentaries, and even novels. The haunting mystery of the Hinterkaifeck murders continues to capture the imagination of people worldwide, with each new theory adding another layer to the puzzle. Some people still visit the site in search of answers, while others simply wish to pay their respects to the victims of the crime. What truly happened at Hinterkaifeck remains an unsolved enigma. Some believe it was the work of a cold-blooded killer, while others think it was an eerie convergence of fate, mental illness, and the supernatural. The Hinterkaifeck family may be gone, but the question of what happened to them and why it remains unsolved will continue to haunt us for generations to come. Thank you for joining us on The Hidden Truth, True Crime Story. This haunting tale serves as a reminder that some mysteries are too dark to be solved, and some questions remain unanswered, no matter how hard we search. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is sometimes far stranger than fiction.